Alright, hey guys, doing that here. We're back with the podcast. I believe this is episode 7. So, we're about to talk about The Last of Us Part 2. How were the wolves created? You guys ready for this? Let's dive right into it, shall we? Alright, civilians living in Seattle were placed under the control of FEDRA and the United States military within the quarantine zone. In time, anger and resentment grew towards FEDRA and military's rule over the city. Emma and Jason Patterson were two countless residents enraged by the explosions, food shortages, and executions the military conducted under Lieutenant Torres and Sergeant Ward rule. Now you'll be able to read these type of documents with inside The Last of Us where Ellie and Deanna finally make it to Seattle. So during that time inside that QZ, every single document you find, it actually adds up and leads to this story. Well, I'm about to tell you guys how they're actually created and how some of the Fireflies actually found the wolves and joined the wolves. Alright, so by the mid 2020s, well, basically 2020, the Pattersons formed the WLF, named Wolves, to fight for better living conditions for the living zone. Uh, they recruited several people into their group, including Allison Cole, Isaac Dixon, Hugo Gonzalez, Luis Sanchez, and Marcus Wilson. However, the protests quickly escalated into an anti-federal campaign. Okay, first of all, the Wolves, they were not a militia guerrilla group yet. Not at the moment. They didn't, like, I guess you could say, kill anyone or pull the trigger. They're more of a protest groups, meaning they would write signs on the wall saying "fuck Federa" and "Federa are fascists." Well, they would say derogatory words, and sooner or later, those words actually held up meaning. And with the Pattersons and their small group of members disturbing anti-Federa propaganda, stealing the military supplies. Now, when they started stealing the military supplies, that's when Federa got, I guess you could say, incited sedition among the Seattle residents. Now, the Wolves were trying to recruit the residents, saying that join our group, we'll give you some of the military supplies. If you join us, we'll help you and we'll keep you safe. Now, Federal was thinking to themselves, they're stealing our supplies and they're recruiting some of the residents. So they must be terrorists and they're trying to create a little militia group of themselves. So eventually the Pattersons were eliminated by the military, along with several of the top official of Wolves, leaving Isaac as the last remaining leader of the rebellion. Now, when that happened, Isaac had to take some action, basically. Now, the WLS, they did not hurt or kill anyone. Yeah, they would probably try to blow up a car or two, but they weren't really, I guess you could say, that threatening at all. Only most likely the words and their deceiving concepts of reality, basically. That was one of the ones that made them a threat. But after they killed Allison Cole, Hugo Gonzalez, Luis Sanchez, Marcus Wilson, that's when Isaac killed 3 Federal soldiers, while several citizens were morally against Isaac's actions. Now, since some of the citizens, meaning residents, they weren't really sure whether or not they should fall into the category like we should follow along Isaac, what he's doing, or should we join Federal? When the residents finally found out what Federal is doing, basically Federal is collapsing because the wolves were growing so far more into contact with other people, and eventually Fireflies came out, and the Fireflies, well, the last remaining of the Fireflies basically are expanded, and it's since Marlene is already dead, the leader of the Fireflies, there are no more Fireflies at all. Now, in the flashback where you saw Ellie went to visit St. Marie's Hospital, she found a video recorder, and the video recorder says that basically one of the Fireflies said that some of us are in a group and we're going to go after Joel the smuggler and the girl, but it really doesn't matter because there wasn't anyone that could make a vaccine except for the doctor. What you guys don't know is the doctor was actually a neurologist. He was the only one who could create a vaccine from Ellie. Neurologist, he was like, I guess, the only one that they could find in the world that was like a doctor of the high magnitude. And it really didn't matter if they found another person that was immune because they need the doctor that can make a vaccine, but they didn't have another doctor that could make the vaccine. That's why. Because he's dead. Yeah, Abby's father. Alright, so what I want to say is that the remaining WLF members elected him as the new leader after he executed 3 federal soldiers when they saw that Isaac was taking command and taking a stand. Over the coming weeks, the WLF committed military attacks on the military checkpoints, assaulted convoys, engaged in open armed conflict against the military. That's when they became a militia group. Militia group is like a guerrilla group, a small little order, kind of like how the Fireflies were. So they're like Fireflies 2.0, basically, I could say, but on a whole other level. Eventually, they're able to finally take out all the Federal soldiers because Isaac's made a big voice. Isaac was a big voice, and people wanted to follow him, lead him, including the residents. The residents decided to follow in his footsteps. Uh, the more the militia group got bigger, they became a military actually. When they became a military, especially with some of the Fireflies that joined them, when the Fireflies saw that there's a new leader, new commander that was standing against Fedra, now the Fireflies, they hated Fedra, and when they saw someone else take lead to destroy Fedra, that's why the Fireflies actually joined the Wolves now. If you guys play the game and lead up to the point where Ellie and Dina are at the courthouse, now the lore of that story is that that was where it was Fedor's last stand because Fedor was being overrun by the wolves. Now the wolves were everywhere. Basically, they're occupying all the QZ's stationaries and the walls. They're trying to bring the wall down, basically, so that they could take everything. They take over Seattle. And they did. They took over Seattle. They executed Federal soldiers with inside the courthouse uh, with the fire squad. Yeah, the fire squad. And so some of the remaining Federal soldiers, their final stand was they went inside the garage basically. They never made out of the garage. No, not even close, because they ran to infected, and the infected in the well, let's just say that they died from the infected. And well, the Wolves just left Federa's last, I guess you could say, units down in the garage below. It was already locked up. They could have escaped, but it was too many infected for them to actually fight. So they just gave up. They said, you know what, let's let them suffer, let's let them die. And they abandoned that whole QZ, that quarantine zone. So Isaac took the remaining wolves, well, his whole military group actually, when they became a military, they passed the Serviana base and they eventually created a FOB. Now the FOB was located deep in the, I wouldn't say deep in the city of Seattle. I would say it'll be kind of near Renton or Kent, Washington. That's where it'll be located at the FOB. And when the Fireflies actually finally joined, the Fireflies, some of them that mantle out, that's when Isaac got the impression and the attention that the Fireflies, some of them that joined his group, they already had military training, so he didn't really need to actually put them in training or um, interrogate them. Well, I mean interrogate them, see where their loyalty really belonged. So that's a story of how the wolves were actually created and how Isaac was in command. But soon in time, Isaac became deranged and he became a dictator more than a leader. Now, a dictator is completely different than a leader. Most people couldn't see that. Some could see that. That's why there were deserters with inside the wolves. Yeah. You're able to hear a few wolves on guard before you actually kill them. When you arrive, like at the news TV stadium. Other than that, what do you guys think about this? How the wolves were created? Are they more ruthless than the Fireflies? Do you think if Marlene was still alive, would she have created a larger military group? Because Marlene did have something like that in mind. She wanted the Fireflies everywhere. She wanted to create a military of her own. But I think Isaac is a sadistic maniac that is just a dictator and very, very crazy and has lost all sense of mentality. Leadership has taken over him, and basically he rules with the iron fist. He doesn't rule with his voice anymore, with the iron fist. There's a difference for that between the two. He could be condescending at times, but Isaac is no leader at all. That's why the deserters actually finally realized that and came to their senses. Yeah, we're working with the wrong person. He's not a leader, alright. And he did torture and kill some of his own soldiers too, by the way. Some of them didn't even realize Abby, Manny, and the whole Salt Lake City crew, they weren't really aware of that, but Isaac did. He did kill some of his members of the Wolves, secretly. How were the scars involved? Now that is a video for another time. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys are new, subscribe to the channel as always. And yes, of course, I'll see you all in the next one.